You'll notice I've been pretty absent of late, and there's a good reason for that. Life and work. It's to be expected in this climate that we have so many other things to get on with. However, there's something very interesting my students brought up with me that I wanted to sort of get all of your opinion on, because I think it will also sort of update you where I am in my research. So, across animation, I teach three core things: anime and games, and every now and then I get to bring in my own research, which I got to do the other day, which was really fun. It was with middle year students, so level 5, and they brought up a very interesting idea based on my own gaming habits, because we quite often talk about the idea of choice and navigating a game. So I'm describing how time works in a comic, and I'm using the work of Junji Ito as my example for the act of turning the page, progressing the story. And I made the question of what happens if you just stay on that one page and you don't want to turn it over. The page I used was like the reveal of the father in the first chapter curling himself up in the drum because he's that obsessed with spirals that he's making ones out of his body. But what I found incredibly interesting is that they then asked the question, what's the difference between staying in one level on a video game and grinding, so essentially bringing the story to a halt, and pausing on a page for an extended amount of time and never going past that page? And it's a very interesting question. It's actually made me rethink some of my research, and to the point that I need to include a section in my thesis on this, just because it's absolutely fascinating. But I'm thinking, when it comes to time in a game, the internal memory and clock is still running. So if I turn on my Switch, it will still say you've logged this many hours on this game. Time is still progressing in the game, it's just that the story is not progressing. Time and the story are different. It's like with a film where you have duration versus story time versus plot time. In a game, that clock is still running. However, in a manga or a comic, time is not running. It has no way of progressing until you move that page. And it's absolutely fascinating. But it made me wonder if there's anything out there that does resemble a comic in terms of pacing and storytelling. It also made me really think of the idea of dialogue. So for example, I'm speaking. There will be a time code right underneath that tells you for however long I'm speaking for. And the idea of that is very interesting to me, because when we're reading dialogue in a comic, we roughly know how long that's going to take. When you have a page with no dialogue, none at all, it's up to you to figure it out. And it's got me thinking about games, like games when I was growing up in the 90s, they didn't exactly have voice actors, but they had text on screen that you would read. And I knew how long it took me to play the game because I would quite often button mash my way through because I was a stupid kid. But it still gets me thinking of what's the intended time there. I don't know. It's a really weird thing to bring up to people. But since I haven't said anything in a while, I thought I would do something. Hi, this is the office. Yes, there is a mark on my head.